All right, guys. Tonight's notes is entitled The Lowell Mills. And what we're going to be looking at are the first textile mills that appeared in Lowell, Massachusetts, and the role that they played in making this or helping make this transition from the traditional economy that we've been used to a more industrial, more modern economy like we have today. All right. So the Lowell Mills were a technological improvement that was part of a wave of technological improvements in the early 1800s. And these technological improvements paved the way for a significant amount of economic growth that we're going to see. So there were a lot of these new inventions that made life easier for the American people, allowed them to produce more things and produce it cheaper and more quickly. So, for example, the cotton gin, we've talked about in a little bit of detail, allowed farmers to separate the cotton fibers from the cotton seeds a lot more quickly than by doing it by hand. The steel tip plow allowed farmers to plow significantly more fields, say, or more acreage than they would have been able to with a traditional plow. The steam engine is going to be huge, at least at first in terms of transportation, powering things like steamboats, allowing people to travel farther distances much more quickly. And the development of mills is just another one of these technological advances happening during this time period. As part of this wave, this shift from a traditional economy to a market economy, all right, Americans are no longer just self-sufficient farmers producing everything that they need in their own home. Americans started buying and selling crops and other goods instead of making everything for themselves. So because they're producing more, they can sell it and use the money from selling these goods to purchase other goods that before they would have either had to have produced at home or wouldn't have had access to. So this shift from a traditional economy to a market economy is the market revolution. Okay? And industrialization is playing a big role in this market revolution. One of the biggest changes that came with this market revolution was the growth of mills in New England. And these mills used water-powered machines to make cloth. So these water-powered machines were a technological improvement that changed the way goods are produced, that allowed people to buy or gain wages and use those wages to buy and sell crops. So you see how all of these things are related. The technological improvement in the mills are leading to a change in the way people produce goods, which allows them to gain more wealth and use those wealths to buy things in the market. And as a result of these mills, especially developing in Lowell, Massachusetts, New England and Lowell become a big industrial center. Most of the employees at the mill were farm girls who lived in supervised dormitories. So before, these girls would not have an opportunity to earn a wage. But now that they have moved and live in these dormitories and work in the mills, they can make a wage and have an opportunity to use that money to purchase other goods. Early on, mill owners wanted to make factory work enticing. They wanted to encourage people to want to work in these mills. So they wanted to make it attractive so girls would be willing to leave their farms and come and work in the factories. So they did things like provided housing in the dormitories, provided meals, things that are not typically associated with work necessarily in a traditional economy. Now, in this market economy, the mill owners are providing these incentives to workers. However, even though there were incentives, working conditions in the mills were usually pretty bad. You can't really sugarcoat it. Even though they are receiving a wage, these workers are receiving very little pay. If you were to look at it in today's dollars, they're making like a couple $100 a month, which is not a lot of money when you think about how much somebody necessarily needs to live off of. Working in the mill was not pleasant. It was usually really hot in the mills, especially you can imagine during the summertime. And the machines were particularly loud. There's examples of women who lost their hearing as a result of working in these mills for a long period of time. You're also breathing in a lot of dust and other particles while you're working in these factories. You can imagine, I mean, because it's closed, there's no air circulation necessarily going on in there. So you're stuck breathing in dust and other particles, and those can be particularly bad for your health. And working on the machines themselves was really dangerous. It was not unheard of for women and other workers to lose fingers, hands, arms in the machines. They were dangerous, and there was lots of examples of injuries suffered by these workers. And as a result of these poor working conditions, there are times when workers are going to go on strike. They're going to demand better working conditions, and so they walk out and demand that the owners improve their conditions. Otherwise, they won't keep working. Unfortunately for the workers, these strikes, at least at first, are usually very unsuccessful, because it was easy for the mill owners, the bosses, to go out and find more workers willing to fill those jobs working in those same conditions. So it's important to understand that even though we do have these mills providing opportunity specifically for women, there are still limitations to that opportunity, and there are going to be issues with this market revolution and industrialization. We're going to see some conflict developing between the workers and factory bosses and owners, and we'll get to that eventually. All right, make sure you have these notes printed off and in your binder by the time you show up for class tomorrow.